well. I will forget to record. All right. Christopher, if you can hear me, you are texting in privately. If you can put it in the group chat, that would be awesome. And he's just asking what's happening. How's everybody doing? All right. Any other comments? Any questions? I have to turn my heater on because I'm freezing to death. All right, we've got this recording. I think we're in Facebook actively. Looks like we are, so we're going to go ahead and go. So what we're talking about today, first of all, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup work, and we'll recap everything that we've gone through so far, and then we're going to add to it. Practice is key. I cannot say this enough. Practice is key. You have to practice what it is you want in order to get yourself somewhere. The more I'm doing this work with people privately in groups, and I'm doing this with different kind of groups. I have one that's actually a weight loss group that we're diving face first into this right now. And the practice itself becomes that new walk, right? If you're not walking it out, the practice itself is going to send you back to whatever you were practicing before. So you have to make sure you're creating this kind of cadence where every day you're doing the things that it's going to take. So we're attacking the problems, not just from one angle. It's not just energy work. It's not just raising your vibration. We're actually using a practice of habituation, right? Which is known to be able to change the subconscious, the energy, the higher vibration, the higher brainwave state will change the subconscious. So we're coming at this from all different kind of angles. The walk itself, or the cadence that you're creating every day, is what will be represented in your life, right? In the present moment and in the future, in the new future that you're creating for yourself. So make sure you understand that. The point to the walk is going to be represented by what you do end up seeing. So in the moment when you're noticing things, that's when you start to do the work. If you don't like what you're seeing, do some work around it to recalibrate the direction that your life is going. Does that make sense? And that's what all of this is about. It's about creating that cadence. We're going to talk a little bit about control, having authority of yourself, and surrendering, and what kind of confusion that's caused in most people's systems, because it's a huge key to this also. All right. All right, so creating the cadence, creating the practice, it has to become something natural that you just do because it's what you do, it's who you are, okay? We hear about this idea of the cradle to the grave illusion, right? This is all just one huge illusion. But the confusion, it is because the illusion itself is so dense, the matter that it's made of itself is so dense, it's hard to understand how the illusion itself is really just an illusion. But one of the things you have to really start honing in on is we've been lied to. We've been told things that literally flat out were not true. We weren't given right instruction. We weren't given right messages. Basically, the wool had been, effectively has been pulled over our eyes. The way that we understood things because of what science told us was incorrect. So we have to start recalibrating the way we think about all of it. If you want to keep yourself going in the direction that you're going, it's all about keeping this higher vibration so that the cells themselves, the DNA itself, can soften up and stay in this lighter wave pattern, right? In the light wave itself. If you start going into the negative realms, if you start going into the negative emotions, thoughts, and all of those things, it literally compresses the DNA. And you end up in this more matter state. And the higher vibrations of oxytocin, it unwinds it, opens it up. And now we're able to move because we're this light form. All right? So make sure that that's kind of foremost in your mind. The more you understand about it, the easier it will get to do. All right, so let's talk for a second about kind of about responsibility, but this is just an interesting part of understanding this. They tell us to be 100% responsible for ourselves, right? You're supposed to be 100, everything that happens in your life, if you can take 100% responsibility, life is going to get easier. But not always. Maybe not ever, right? The responsibility part itself is correct, but in order to be 100% responsible, you have to be in control. But then they tell us, don't be in control, release everything and let it go, right? Surrender. It's kind of the great surrender game, which is also a good thing to do, but you have to know what it is you're surrendering. What is it you're letting go of? What is it they were talking about when they were talking about that? I think some of that was misunderstood and some of it was taught wrong. So let's work on this for just a second and see if we can straighten out some of the frustration and the confusing parts of it. This is where I think if you can understand taking authority of yourself, taking authority inside your life and having control of yourself, when you get so involved with your own spirit, you can actually command it to do things. You can start to command your own spirit in a way that you probably never thought of before. But you have to have emotional control over this vessel. So when they say you have to surrender and let go of everything, they're talking about everything outside of you. Anything that's not this. If I'm trying to control things outside of me, what it does is it creates fear, right? If I'm trying to control something that's not part of my system, I end up in fear because you really can't control that. You have no ability to control that stuff. So in order to be able to fully let go and fully release things, it can only be stuff that involves you and inside of you, right? What do we have control of truly? Your own emotional base. That's pretty much it. The physical vessel I live in, most of the time, right? That's pretty much it. That's all I have control of. The whole idea about releasing, surrendering, and letting go of everything, people take that as them too. I'm supposed to just let all this go, right? My thoughts, I just release it, let it go, right? My emotions, and you're hoping that life serves you back something decent. It's kind of what the idea law of attraction taught us. But what it does is it creates separation, right? Now I'm separate from myself instead of coming into this wholeness that we're looking for. In order to be whole, you have to be in touch with your own spirit, right? It also creates polarity, all the stuff in the brain where we're going do, don't, can, can't, yes, no, right, wrong, should, shouldn't, heaven, hell, all of those kinds of ideas in polarity. Instead of creating momentum, if you're truly in touch with your spirit, you're going to create momentum. But you have to be there and you have to be able to understand it and see it and do it. So in order to be responsible, 100% responsible, you have to have that element of control over your spirit and over yourself, right? Nothing in the world outside of you, just inside of you. Your emotions, your desires, yourself. Is that making sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions so far? Oh, I just looked down and there is a question. Okay, we'll come back to that, Natalie, about when do you know when to use what. We'll come back to that. Okay, and we'll discuss that too, Jessica, because that's interesting. Because you're letting her control something about you, right? So what she just wrote was she was doing good until her mom cut all of her hair off. Somebody else is controlling your emotions by something they did. And that's part of this, if I control my emotions, you can't touch this, you can't bother this. Even if somebody does something to you, I still have control over my emotions. And that's where the breathing comes back into play. And that's where you have to sit down and get back inside your heart space, okay? All right. One of the things too I want you to ask yourself is if you're not in control of this vessel, of your own heart and your own spirit, who is? Or what is? I mean, think about that for a second. What in the world around you is controlling you? and keeping you locked in the cycles that you're locked in. Because if you have control of self, if you have control of this, that can't. It's either one way or the other. And you have to be so decisive, and this is where decision making comes in. You have to be so decisive about what you're doing and what you're wanting that there is nothing else. And that's where I settle into my spirit, and that's where the walk comes into place, the cadence that I'm always walking from my heart space. All right, if you're not doing that, that is where we start blaming, right? It's your fault, you did this, you did that. You start doubting yourself because you're not in that spirit part of you. Okay, does that make sense? The people who I see nodding their heads. So, all right, so let's recap for a second, and then I'll answer some of the question that Natalie just asked. All right, so recap, we're going to talk about functional breath and heart coherence first, and then functional breath 2 and pineal gland. And today we're actually going to go over using the ladder of awareness, and I'll show you a diagram of this so you can see how it works and how it functions. So we're going to actually be pulling some of this together, so you'll know exactly how and when, because they're all really part of the same thing. They're just functional pieces that we're using to set the system up. Breath 1, breath 2, dealing with monkey mind. The monkey mind thing, use all the time until you have control of your mind. Like literally, if negative thoughts are coming in, if negative things are coming in, yes, I will. I'll take a look in just a second. That's the perfect moment to use the monkey mind thing, okay? So Stephanie had just said, not having to be affected by what others do to us sounds like having to somehow be beyond an embodied human. The divine made us human, yet somehow we have to transcend this. Yes? Yes. That's exactly the point of this life. And I think if you're one of the persons or one of the people who have the understanding of like past lives and why we keep coming back to do this, if you believe that idea that you come back and do this over and over, that's why. Because you didn't transcend, what unfair, you didn't transcend this physical body in the lifetime. If you get in touch with your spirit and you're able to walk this out from a spirit standpoint instead of a physical, mortal, right, the matter around me controls me standpoint, now I have direct communication with God. Whatever you whatever word you use to describe that for you, now I'm so deep inside the space of my heart that it doesn't any longer control me, right? The physical function of the body that you're in is what aids you to get there if you recognize it. Breath makes a difference. Understanding how your pineal gland works makes a difference. Understanding the function of your heart space makes a huge difference. When we don't know that, that is what we consider an asleep person, right? That person is asleep. When you start to wake up, you recognize there are things going on around you that cause you to act certain ways, and then we start going into blame, and then you realize, okay, it's not their fault, it's really something I did, but how do I get control of the system? It's by understanding how the system works. If we had an understanding, this is where we were lied to for years. This is the part that kind of blows my mind. If we had known how this system works centuries ago, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this right now. We would be living in more of the idea of the Garden of Eden or utopia or, whatever the other names for that are. All right. Did that answer that question? I hope so. The what unfair? Sorry, it is. But this is the whole point to it, right? The divine did make us human, and it will carry you through. You just got in touch. You have to get in touch with it. And that's that part inside of you. It's a prison planet. Yeah, that would be one way to put it also. All right, so let's come back up here to breath 1. Breath 1 is simply a functional breath. It's literally the physiology of the body. It's a big inhale, expansion at the rib cage, nice, long, deep exhales. The longer the exhale, the deeper you're shooting oxygen into every cell of your body. right? If the body itself is not properly oxygenated, you're going to have problems. You're going to have struggles, right? The less we breathe, the less good we feel. And I mean, it's interesting in this world because it can be tough if you live in polluted air, but breath is still a functional piece of all of this. Water also, drinking, get hydrated. Your brain is 80% water. Did you know that? We always talk about the brain needing sugar and protein. It needs water just as bad, if not more so, right? So hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And then breathe. Use the functional breath 1. If you do that 3 times, put your hands over your heart. The reason we put the hands over the heart is to bring awareness to the heart. So practicing moving your awareness is just a piece of all of this. I move my awareness from my brain, whatever I'm thinking, down into the center of my heart space. Tactical touch, physical touch, draws awareness. So when you if I touch somebody on the shoulder, their awareness goes to where I touched them on the shoulder. If you put your hands over your heart, you're automatically helping yourself bring your awareness to your heart space. Okay? Inside your heart, different than outside your heart. Know the difference. Outside your heart, you have neurites. They're called neurites. And these neurites send signals to the rest of the body. They actually act a lot like the neuroplastic and the neural pathways that are created in the brain. And it's not where we want to be, right? Because they store everything just like the brain will. It's more moment-to-moment stuff, but they still store things just like the brain does. You want to be inside your heart space. Natalie's asking, can we do it without the hands over the heart? If you're effective, yes, at moving your awareness. Of course you can. Yep. So get effective at moving. She says it could be, you know, self-conscious doing it in front of somebody or somewhere that you might feel that. Get good at moving your awareness. And it's not hard to do. Again, it's just something we weren't taught. You have to teach yourself how to do it. I move my awareness from my head to my heart, from my heart to my gut, from my gut to my finger, from my finger behind my eyes, from my eyes to my ear. And it's wherever you're sensing, like you're just moving your awareness to that place and becoming aware of wherever you've moved your awareness to. The key to knowing you're inside your heart space is that you won't be thinking. You won't be thinking the same thoughts that you think when you're inside your brain or anywhere else. If I'm aware inside my heart, you'll notice that there's no boundaries. There's no borders. It's not like you're inside the muscle, the heart. You're inside this place of the heart that actually takes you out into a whole different dimension, space, arena, whatever you want to call it. You can stand there inside the space of your heart, noticing there's no boundaries and borders, and at some point you'll get curious enough to start moving beyond that. And with enough awareness, you'll catch yourself kind of drifting out into wherever that is for you. People will ask, is there color to it? Is it dark? Is it light? It's whatever you make it. It literally is. For people who are afraid of darkness because they think dark is evil, right? We're still caught in polarity. Know that you're back up in your head, come back down to your heart. Somebody the other day had said, is that why I have visions in my heart space? Yes, right? It moves beyond, it transcends the physical body. You want to talk about transcending? Who was that, Stephanie? Right? Transcend the physical body by being in the heart space. When you're in that space, command yourself, go further, go deeper. I was actually lucky enough to be in a group not too long ago. We were at a Joe Dispenza thing in Boulder, Colorado, or near Boulder, Colorado, at the Gaia Sphere. And he was standing there talking about, you know, in the heart space, and there's no borders and boundaries and all this kind of stuff that I've been doing the same stuff for years. He goes, with a single command, go further. And I was like, what? And he goes, just tell yourself, go further. And I was like zinging across the universe at that point. I took off and I was just like, what the heck? And he's like, yeah, with a single command, go further. And what I have understood, because I command my spirits to do all stuff all the time, but my spirit, I never realized that it would transcend space and time also. Let me see if there's anybody in here waiting to get in. Hang on just one second. There we go. Sorry about that, Kendra. I just now saw you. All right. So command, right? When you get into that heart space and you're noticing the dreams and visions, simply command yourself to go further. You'll either move across space and time, or you'll start literally allowing yourself to see things and do things that you probably haven't been doing up until this point. Okay? All right. All right, I'll answer that question in a minute too, Natalie. She's asking if, would you say that your work is really similar to Dispenza? I have been told that it is. I'll answer that in a minute. I've been called the female Joe Dispenza. I have actually, somebody posted that on my Facebook page. But I'll tell you exactly how it differs in just a second. All right, so heart space, heart coherence. Heart coherence creates that 0.1 hertz. It sends a signal to the brain. The brain produces all these new enzymes and chemicals, and it sends the information back down through the body, connecting you, making you more whole. You recognize that feeling inside your heart space. Recognize it, recognize it, recognize it, because it will keep sending the signal the more you stay in it. All right? The attributes of the heart. Attributes of the heart. Can anybody list them? What are the attributes of the heart? And by attributes, I mean, what does your heart do? What is inside your heart space? What does it do for you? Does anybody know? Allow compassion to enter. Compassion is definitely an attribute of the heart. Anything else? Gratitude, yes. Anything else? Excitement, can be. Yep. Joy, yes. Filtering mechanism. You're stepping a little too fast, but yes. And that's not an attribute. I guess it is a function of the heart. Attributes, so Stephanie said praise, gratitude, love, compassion. Yep. It's all the feeling centers that we're looking for. And then we're going to dive into what Christopher's talking about. The attributes of the heart speak directly to your spirit. That's how it's connected. Through the heart, connection to your internal, eternal being. That part of you that we're looking for is that spirit. Yes. Yep. Sybil, feeling of peace. Peace is an attribute of the spirit, of the heart. It's the same thing, right? In other realms, with other times in my life, we called it the attributes of God, right? It's the same thing. It's that part inside of you, that spirit part of you that knows all of these attributes. And that's what you're connected to through your heart. Some people would call it the golden chain. It's the chain that connects us together, us to our spirit. So when you use those attributes, you're speaking directly to this spirit part of you, and you're waking that part of you up. The more that part of you becomes awake, the easier heart coherence is to stay in, because now it's not separate from you. It's awake and alive in you. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure we know and use those attributes just by word alone. By saying the word itself, it will help wake your spirit up. All right, so attributes. So heart coherence, that was functional breath 1 and heart coherence. Now Natalie had asked, how do you know when to use these? I would be practicing that every day, because it is the cadence that keeps you in a different space in your life. If you're not practicing something, you're practicing something you don't realize you're practicing. Does that make sense? That's how we got into this mess to start with. We've been practicing things our whole lives, and probably even beyond this. You didn't recognize you were practicing was doing you harm, right? The lesser emotions, the things that we think are bad, or the polarity and duality about ourselves, we practice being that way. Inside your heart, you can't do that. It doesn't operate that way. So heart coherence, I would be doing every day. Once you get a cadence to it, you don't need to do it every hour. Once you've established it as your primary way of being, you won't need to do it except the idea of meditating once a day, right? But you have to establish it first, or it's going to seem like it's a chore and it's hard to get to, right? Functional breath 2 awakens the pineal gland. It's that squeezing, right? Squeeze and inhale. It pulls the oxygen and energy up to the brain, touching the pineal gland. What we're trying to do is shake that little thing up. It's the size of a grain of rice. And if you looked it up on Google, you probably saw where it's located in your brain. So you're just using your imagination, your awareness to direct your energy, your oxygen straight to that gland. There is a, what do they call it? A conspiracy theory surrounding the pineal gland that because of all of the filter, all the fluoride in the water, all the chemicals that we eat and drink, a lot to do with the vaccines, and I'm not going to go into a lot of that stuff right now. Whatever you think about it, don't think about it. They say that the pineal gland itself is calcified in most people. This breathing technique actually loosens up the calcification. It'll help clean that off. I have heard that the calcification itself is not hard. It's not like a hard calcium deposit, but it's like toothpaste almost. It just surrounds your pineal gland. And what it does is it stops those little crystals that surround the pineal gland. It stops those from moving. If those are moving, those are the inside hits, right? Inside the third eye, right? Find your third eye. It's the color that starts exploding inside your mind for no apparent reason, right? It's when people start seeing the geometric shapes or, you know, those kind of things. That's third eye activation. It's more intuition. When you connect the heart to the pineal gland, you even get more intuition, right? And it's those little things we're looking for. If your pineal gland is calcified, you will struggle doing this. So I would just assume there's an issue there, and then keep working on doing the breath work and keep pressing that energy towards the pineal gland, right? We want to clean it off, wake it up. Joyle says pineal gland breathing, is that where you do the praise statement? Can be. We'll talk about that again in a second too. And what was the main purpose of the praise statement? Praise is another attribute to your spirit. It's actually the easiest way to start talking to your spirit. Most people, because of what we know about love, and gratitude is actually a very easy one, but if you go love first, people will stall out because of what you learned about love in this plane of existence, right? Love is just an issue for most people. Gratitude, not so much. We can grasp gratitude. Praise can be iffy depending on where you come from. I think I told this story last time. Praise for me was kind of iffy because I take it right back to my religious roots. And I didn't understand praising a God that was so mean to us, basically, because we were horribly abused as kids. What I understand praise to mean now is not praise for anything outside of you, it's praise inside of you, right? You're talking to self. I'm giving myself an up-leveling, a better feeling. I even know people that praise their organs. Go in and talk to them. They'll literally go sit in their organs and talk to their organs and tell them how wonderful they are, how amazing they are, the function that they're doing inside their bodies. And what you're doing when you're doing that is you're literally sending energy into that space. Attention and awareness sends your energy. And then that organ gets lit up, it gets energy it probably hasn't had in a while. And then all of a sudden it starts functioning different, right? It's kind of interesting how that works. So the point of the praise statement is to just uplift yourself. It's to talk to your spirit, the internal, eternal part inside of you, okay? Pineal gland, we're trying to connect the system back together. Heart coherence, brain coherence, the pineal gland awakens. Today we're going to add the gut into this equation. And they're not separate parts and pieces. They're all parts to get you back to the whole. Okay, does that make sense? Does that help? All right, any other questions? Keep posting and I'm going to try and keep watching. Okay, good. All right, So it was functional breath 2 is where we're squeezing, starting down low, inhaling, pulling oxygen up into the system. You can add an attribute, right? Add a statement. What did we used to call them on the sticky notes? Affirmations. If you're going to write an affirmation, use an attribute of the spirit. Somehow word it in there, right? Because it'll go deeper than just the affirmation itself. You're doing it inside of heart coherence and opening the system up. Now you're actually attaching it deeper into the subconscious. Sorry, I had to turn my heater off. So when you're in heart coherence, subconscious door is open, my brainwave state is higher. If I sit there for 3 minutes, I do that little 3-minute period, my brainwave state starts raising, I'm in the subconscious mind, now I introduce my attribute. Introduce your affirmation. And it's going to get deeper into your system, and you're talking to your spirit, right? I'm not just introducing an affirmation that's trying to fix something outside of me, right? For years, affirmations that we're trying to like fix and alter our realities outside of our bodies. Say things that talk to your spirit, right? Even if it's attached to something outside of you, if you're doing it from a spirit standpoint, the manifestation will happen faster than just trying to manifest it from out here, okay? For example, oh, you're gonna put me on the spot, Miss Kendra. All right, for example. All right, let me tell you a little story because this just happened. We were asked to leave our house 2 days before Christmas. Yep, I love you. 2 days before Christmas, I got a text message actually from my landlord. And we live on probably 1.5 acres, beautiful property, huge house. It's really gorgeous. We take care of the property, take care of the house. And I've been putting gardens and doing all kinds of work. Anyway, he calls and says, hey, I sold the house, you have to move. You've got till the end of January. It's just like 2 days before Christmas, really, right? My heart sank. I was so angry, like my whole world just started falling apart. And I sat there, and in the moment I noticed it was falling apart, all of a sudden my heart opened, and I felt this feeling of peace, which is what I normally get, is this really great feeling of peace. And I caught the wave of peace, and so I closed my eyes and I sat there for a minute, and I just started manifesting, right, your typical manifestation, a new house. And as I was sitting there, I just started doing some praise work. I was praising and talking to my spirit. And through my spirit, I saw a whole different manifestation than what I would normally do. I took the idea into my heart space. I sat with my spirit. I did the praise work. I just kept breathing and doing the praise work, kind of looking at what do I want to see in a house. What I literally saw was kind of a small farm, huge garden, big lot. The water was easy. It wasn't like hard to water all this stuff. The house itself was kind of a small farmhouse because we don't need a lot of room. It's never been a big issue for us houses. The inside was pretty basic. And I remember stopping and thinking, while I was doing this, I thought in my head, why can't I ever have anything fancier? I never ask for anything fancy. I never do. And I just kind of skipped over it and I was like, keep it easy, keep it basic. So the next day, what shows up? This house, and the part of the thing was affordability. This house shows up on one of the sites we were watching in a price range that was way lower than anything else around. It has a huge garden. It's on, I think, 3/4 of an acre. The water of the city, it's an agricultural area, so it literally flows through the center of this property line, and all you have to do is open this little thing and it floods the garden with water. The craziest thing I've ever seen. I was like, are you being serious? And the house had enough space and everything else, and you walk inside, but all of the fixtures, all of the bathroom things, all of the kitchen is original from like the 1950s, if you can imagine this. And it's cute, but it's not up to date, and it's not fancy, and it's not, I don't know, I was just like, this is so weird. It smelled like grandma. I was kind of like, this is interesting. And after the inspection, what we found out is the whole roof needs to be replaced. So there's an issue there. And I looked at my husband the next morning after we found out about the roof, and I'm like, do we want to deal with this? And he literally looked at me and he goes, why can we never do anything on a grander scale? What is wrong with us? Like, why aren't we like looking at things? And he doesn't do any of this stuff. My husband is not a believer of anything, actually. And he's like, why don't we just ever look at anything that's better? I'm like, oh no, I seriously don't get it. So I sat back down and I started seeing better things, found exactly same price point, this house, and this is literally how it came out in my mind. This house is so nice. When I was a chef, we used to go into people's homes and serve, right? We would go in and serve them and cook for them and do whatever as caterers. This is one of those houses. And I looking at my husband going, are we seriously going to live here? It feels so weird to me. And my spirit's just like, yes, yes, it's yours, just take it. We literally put it under contract yesterday. Still room for a garden, room for our animals, our dogs, our cats, whatever. More space than we could need. It's crazy to me. And I'm like, and all I did was sit down and talk to my spirit. I took it to my spirit first, and then I moved. Does that make sense? When you get so in touch with your spirit on that level, all of a sudden, this is just what I've noticed, that things start becoming easier, even when things are hard. This is not easy, packing all this stuff up again. I'm just like, ugh, seriously. But it's not hard. Does that make sense? It's not fun, except the thought of now I get a really nice house. There's like a bathtub in this place that has like the jets for a whirlpool in it. I'm like, seriously? Who gets one of those? I don't even know. But that's where I think from the spirit standpoint, that's why we do this. If you're not in contact with your spirit, you're missing out on probably the biggest piece of being in this life. That is the point of this life, is to reconnect you to your spirit and then walk out your life in that regard instead of walking it out in polarity and duality. Was that a good example? Hopefully that helped you understand what I'm talking about, right? And that's like deeper into it. So we're going to take a step further today with these processes. Let me go back here for just half a second and make sure I'm catching all these things. We'll talk about that in a second. I keep saying that. I should just like go through it when I read it. All right. If I don't catch your question and you're like, hey, wait a minute, you didn't answer my question, just repeat it so I can see it, okay? All right, so the original question I'm trying to answer here is Natalie's about when do you use these techniques? As you keep doing this, you're going to notice that they're not separate techniques. They're all the same thing. We're just adding steps to it as we're moving along, right? If your pineal gland gets turned on, you no longer need to do the breath. You might want to surge energy through your system once in a while. So I'll do some breaths. I'll do some of functional breath number 1, and maybe I'll add a couple of functional breath number 2s. I'll just like, because I'm just surging energy through my system. I'll direct energy into a gland, into an organ, into a space in my body that has pain, right? Direct the energy straight into those spaces, and you're just giving it awareness and paying attention to it in a different way than we've ever been taught how. But that's part of the functional breath, knowing how to raise energy into your system. Your body is a pump. It is a pump, and when you learn how to use it and you get that turned on inside your system, all of this changes. To just sit and not expect your body to have any participation in creating energy and in creating flow in your life is just weird. It doesn't make any sense to me anymore. But when you start to use your body to pump that energy through your system, and then you recognize you can direct it, now we've got room for movement. Now we've got room to do something different. Every step you take, like literally physical steps, if I put left foot in front of right foot in front of left foot, every step you take, your body should be doing this pumping motion. I inhale, my pelvic floor rises, the diaphragm pulls down, it pulls oxygen into my lungs, my lungs and rib cage expand, energy shoots up through the central nervous system, hits my pineal gland. As I exhale, it comes back down and it deposits all that good energy, good feeling, and oxygen into my cells. Every step you take should be aiding in the function of that happening, but we weren't taught that the system worked that way, so we never used it. We didn't do it. Once you get it turned on, it'll be natural function. It'll be natural function. So that's actually another thing I do is I'll go walking and squeezing, trying to get my body to generate that kind of energy so it learns how to do it all the time. All right, let me scroll back down here real quick and catch this. Okay, very good. All right, so we've got heart coherence, got our pineal gland working. I'm going to talk to you about something that an angel showed me called the ladder of awareness. So I am going to try to share my screen. This is the ladder of awareness. This is just fun to me, this part of this, because it made all of this more sensible and more easy. You need the breath work because the body needs to expand and breathe. This involves heart coherence. It helps put your brain into brain coherence, which is part of what heart coherence does. But as we take the information through the system, excuse me, if you have a cup of water, a glass of water, it's a good time to take a drink. Otherwise, I'm going to choke to death. All right. This ladder, what it does is it takes information through the system and transmutes it. I don't remember what Christopher called this just now because I shut down my my little chat box, but this is what he was talking about. Your heart acts as more than just a pump, all right? Your heart's a transducer of information. Your heart actually takes information and changes it into something else. It takes energy and changes it into something else. And that's part of what heart coherence is all about, is recognizing not only the function of your heart as a pump that moves and circulates blood around your system, but to recognize those open borders and boundaries, and then recognizing that it transduces information for you. All right, the universe, let's come back up here to the top. The universe is all about new knowledge and new information, right? It could be information you already have and know, but every time you go back into that space, that's where knowledge is stored, is in the space of this universe, of the matrix kind of idea. Your brain is storage and retrieval for our purposes. The brain does all the function of the body. It's where all the hormones start, where all of these things start inside your system. But for what we're talking about right now today is just storage and retrieval. It's where I store information, neural pathways are formed, and it's where I retrieve that information from. Your heart is a transducer of information, of intelligence, of feeling, right? So the intelligence can be emotional, or it can be knowledge, wisdom-based intelligence. And then your gut is also, so this is where we're going to start adding the gut into this. Your gut is also a wealth of storehouse for knowledge, and not because storehouse is the wrong word. It reaches out into the environment around you to gather knowledge, and it also transduces it, right? So you can change the information inside your gut. It's kind of the idea of the gut feeling. Your gut has neurites in it, just like your heart has, just like your brain does. The only difference with the gut is that it doesn't necessarily store the information like the heart can and like the brain can. But it does go out into the environment around you, gather information, and then give you a feeling. And if you pay attention to that feeling, you'll know that something is happening, something is going on. Most of us were taught to ignore that feeling, right? We were taught to ignore feelings in general. So understanding that awareness inside your gut and that you can actually use it as a tool, part of the system. All right. So here's how we use this idea of a ladder of awareness to transduce information. And I think what we're going to do with this is we'll start with something kind of easy, and I'll walk you through it, but I want everybody to think about the same thing, and we'll notice where we can get to with this, and I'll tell you exactly how you can use it for other things also. So we're going to start with this ladder of awareness to release emotions. It's one of the things you can do is release old emotions, right? Release strong emotions, things that you have really strong and you're like, I can't get this under control kind of thing. You need to transduce it or move it. And we'll start with an emotion, and we're going to start with an easy one. It's not easy, but it's simple. We're going to start with fear, because everybody can feel fear. All right? Fear, I want to say, is the opposite of love, but it's not really the opposite. Fear is actually on the same strand as love, but it's just on a different end of the spectrum. All right? So when you think about fear, know that it's just walking a straight line and you'll be back into love. Bring this person in. Here we go. All right? So it's the same spectrum. It's just on a different end of the spectrum. I want you to think about something. So this is where we start. This is in the brain. So this is your ladder of awareness. This is how simple it is. You're going to start in the brain by thinking of something that you want to transform. In this case, it's fear. So think about fear. Find the feeling of fear. It doesn't necessarily have to be like in correlation to something. You're just like thinking about fear in general. If that makes any sense, if you can do that. When I feel fear, I feel my stomach knot up. I feel a twinge in my heart. Sometimes my chest gets tighter, right? For me, my hands will start getting clammy feeling. But you want to just notice and see if you can feel fear, but don't think about anything necessarily that would take you into a fear space. You're going to notice it for about 1 minute. 1 minute is a decent enough period of time that it brings it up into consciousness. You become a little bit more aware. You might start getting thoughts to the fear, pictures, ideas, any of those kind of things, but it's not so long that you're going to fall face first into it and get lost in the fear. All right, so I'll set my timer. We're going to think about fear for a minute. And we've actually already started, so just keep going. Once that minute is up, you're going to use the idea of heart coherence. Now you're going to drop that feeling of fear, move it with your awareness from your brain to your heart. You need to put your hands over your heart, do that. If you want to practice without your hands over your heart, do that. Drop the idea of fear into your heart, and then you're just letting your heart do its job. Just notice what happens to the feeling of fear when it's in the center of your heart. Is love, compassion, gratitude, joy, peace. Just notice. Notice the length of time that it takes to alter that feeling. This is different for everybody. I also want you to notice that you're not in a meditative state. You're merely moving something from your brain to your heart with your awareness. At any point, you can add breath, open up the space in your chest, move those chemicals around. Breath moves the chemicals. And sometimes it does take a little bit longer for some people, so just be aware of that. But for our purposes right now, it's been about another minute. We're going to take that awareness, whatever that's changed into, from your heart space, whatever it is you're feeling. Some people will tell me, but I don't feel anything. Well, did you feel the fear to start with? Yes. Now it's in your heart, you don't feel anything, right? Call that peace. All right, call that feeling peace. Now from that feeling that's in your heart, I want you to again take it and move it down towards your gut. Let your gut do its job. Your gut's going to give you one of two things. It's either going to signal you fight and flight. It's going to tell you there is something to worry about here. or it's going to give you more peace. It doesn't matter what shows up. It doesn't matter which way. Just notice which one you get. Is there something truly worth worrying about here, or do I get more peace? And you're just noticing. The more aware you become, the faster you get in tune with this, because it happens in an instant. It does not take much time. Whatever feeling you got from your gut, whether it was fight and flight or whether it was more peace, you're going to use your awareness again and now move that feeling out into the universe. Move it out into that space in your heart that has no boundaries, no borders. And if it's peace, it's a direct signal to your spirit. You're talking to your spirit at this point, showing this level of peace. You're just noticing, feeling, looking, listening. Some people at this level, at this step, when they've moved it back into their heart space or out into the universe, however you want to look at it, will start to get new information. Thoughts, ideas, pictures, visions. Christopher alluded to that before. And I would sit here for 2 or 3 minutes and just notice that. So just sit there noticing, being with it. And when you're ready, bring that information back into your brain. So now you're going to use your awareness again, bringing the information you just now got from the universe back into your brain. And let your brain do some work storing it. In this moment, what you're doing is rewiring your system. You're rewiring your brain. You've connected your brain to your heart to your gut, your brain to your gut to your brain. The system is totally connected and aware. And now you're rewiring your brain with the new information that you just now got that will replace the feeling you had of fear, that you called fear. Come back into your breath work, just a gentle inhaling and exhaling, using that functional breath number 1. And when you're ready and you think it's sufficiently in your brain, anybody wants to share, either type in the chat box. I'm going to leave this up here for a second. If you want to take a screenshot of it, please feel free to do so. You can actually take a shot of it and put it on your phone if you want to. Take a picture of it. I was trying to see if I could move this bar so it's not up here so much, but I don't know how to move it. But when you're ready, if you want to open your microphone and share what you noticed, even if you're like, hey, I didn't get there. I want to know so I can help you walk through it, okay? Let me know what's going on. Or you can type in the chat box. All right, I'm going to stop the share for, for a minute so I can see you all again. If you want to open your microphone, please feel free to. If you're typing in the chat box, Joelle says, in the gut, I was able to let go, eliminate parts of what's not productive. It's interesting what the gut will do. You know, who knew? I heard years ago, I used to listen to a guy named Sid Roth, who is, he's actually Jewish, but he does a lot of, he's a, what do they call it, a Messianic Jew. And he always talked about if you could drop an illness or something into your gut and let your gut process it, it would end it. And I was always like, what? Like, how does that work? But I couldn't move my awareness. So he would literally go to the illness. He would do this for other people. This is how he heals other people. He would go move his awareness to other people's physical bodies, move their illness, move their issue into the gut. And I'm guessing it's a collective gut at that point, their gut, his gut, whoever's gut, let it process. And they would usually walk away in seconds going, oh, that feels different. He actually removed a spot off the top of my head that was, it was when I was really struggling with cancer. I had a lot of cancer cells going on, skin cancer and a lot of weird stuff. But I had a huge spot on the top of my head. I just didn't want to go in and get it checked, but I knew. And he did something, and it literally like was gone. It just disappeared. That was the craziest thing. To this day, sometimes I'll go like feeling for it, going, okay, was that real? It was bizarre. It was bizarre. All right, so gut's really important for this, okay? It's an important part of the physiological function. All right, let's see. Lisa said, I had a hard time feeling fear. I don't know because I felt it a lot lately. I mean, so I would just be aware if it shows up again and then run it through the process when it shows up. So one of two things happened. You either did this way faster than you realized you did it, right? And the system, even by way of like talking about it, the system will go into action. There's a lady who did studies, Terry, I think her name's Terry McCullough. She did a bunch of studies on group, and for her it was group healing. And literally what she said was when one person got activated to heal, everybody else in the group got the same thing, which is why group work is so fascinating and amazing. So you could have just notice if it shows up, run it through the system. Otherwise, just assume, oh, my system like lickety split did its job. And that's how fast this should happen. How fast can you move your awareness? Your heart does not take time to change the emotion over. It happens in a split second. It's how fast you become aware of it. Right? Gut's the same thing. It doesn't take time for the gut to give you information. It happens that fast. It's how fast can you become aware of it. Okay, does that make sense? I'm just going to move down the questions here, the statements. Stephanie says, fear is a big one for me. What I got was that my fear is very old and unfinished business. I understand this and felt some relief when I brought the info back into my brain. Awesome. And so sometimes, and literally this is what I've done over the last number of years since I learned this, the angel kept telling me, take the major emotions, don't associate anything to them, just the feeling by itself if you can get to it, and run it through the system, because it's the feeling, it's those neuropeptides in your system that are attached to the issues, right? It's not the issue that's the issue. The issue is the thing that happened, and the neuropeptides that gave you a feeling are what keep dragging you back to the issue. The issue is just simply the course of life, something that happened, and all of a sudden I get this feeling and it locks into my system because I don't have an effective way to release it. But this is an effective way to release it. And it can happen that fast if you can train your awareness to move that quickly. So what I'm trying to say is do it again, right? Feel fear, just generalized fear. My doggy's down here taking everything off my shelf. Feel whatever the fear is. Don't assign it anything and then run it through the system. Sadness, anger, right? What are the major emotions that you contend with? Right now, in this period of time that we're in around the globe, I would do confusion. I would feel confusion. And I guarantee you, you're not just feeling your confusion, you're feeling global confusion. Frustration is another really good one to do. Feel frustration, and if it's a local frustration to you, Run it through the system and then feel it again, because you're probably feeling it on a different level. And just from the state of the globe, right? Everything that's happening on this planet right now. If you're in the United States and you're in the frustration, confusion, anger, fear, whatever it is, or even joy, let's go the other direction too, joy and excitement of the upcoming election, wherever your stance is on that, run it through the processor if it's not benefiting you. All right, Kendra, in the gut, the feeling of fear turned into the feeling of unsettling. Take it back through. So this literally does happen. You're going through layers. The feeling of fear turned into unsettling. Feel unsettling. Bring it back in. Bring it into the heart. Let it process. Notice what else shows up. Inside the heart, and this is one of the ways you know, we discussed this a little bit earlier, am I inside the heart or outside of the heart? If I'm inside of the heart, all that can happen are the attributes of the heart. Peace, joy, love, gratitude, right? All those things. If you're outside of the heart, you've missed the mark a little bit. Feel the unsettling, because you're going to get a different layer of fear. Bring it back into the heart and try again. And you're literally just going through layers and levels. All right? And then go the rest of the way through the system. Okay? It's like all of a sudden I can relate to it right now. To the fear? This is Lisa. All of a sudden I can relate to it right now. To the fear, is that what you're saying? Joyle's saying it's hard not to associate fear with a life situation. It is, and if it shows up, let it show up. You're just running it through the system. That way the neuropeptides can detach. I usually tell people not to start with, because if you go directly looking for the issue, the problem, whatever it is, and you're trying to, then you're actively working on that single situation instead of the global experience of fear. Okay, does that make sense? And you want to just keep it detached so fear in general can clear. If it shows up, just walk with it, right? If the thing shows up, just go ahead and go with it. Would you do it again and again until you get a strong positive emotion? Yes, I would. Can't relate to it. Can't relate to it. I need more information. I'm sorry, I'm not following you, Lisa. It's like all of a sudden I can't relate. Oh, to the fear. So maybe it's something different for you right now. Maybe for whatever reason, the fear is not showing up. Emotion of fear right now. And like I said before, it could be because everybody in the room is clearing fear and your system was just like, I'm just going to go for the ride, and it moved fast. If it shows back up, walk it through the system. And then understand that this is going to go on and on. You're still in the life. Just because you cleared fear once, you're clearing stuff from past emotion, insult, issue. I can't go in reverse. It could be that. That's a good point of view. It could be that. But also realize that it could have cleared the system that fast because you are so engrossed in learning. Your system might have just went and just let it out, right? And you didn't even have to do anything. And that does happen. So either way, just be aware if it does show up, know the process, okay? What was I saying? I totally forgot what I was just saying. All right, well, we'll just move on unless that comes back. Can you show us your puppy? Yes. Oh my gosh. Let me show you the mess she just made. This is what my dog does. She takes everything out and plays with it, and I don't know why. Why are you doing this? Hey, Taz. Hi. She's so funny. Where? I know. You want to say hi? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. This is my little Taz. He's my baby. Huh. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're like nothing. Let me go eat stuff. Okay, good. Okay, good. She's a sweetheart. You're welcome. Thank you. I know, you can go back to playing. Yes, you can. All right, so emotions are one thing. Emotions will be stuck to issues, symptoms, right? Emotions are stuck to everything, which is why I say go there first. If there is an issue or something you've gone through in your past that like has created a pattern, right? So you're seeing repetition in the same pattern because of something, and know where it started, don't know where it started, it doesn't seem to matter. Take it into your heart doing the same thing. Think about the issue. Go for about a minute. You want to really get your awareness on it. Bring it into a conscious state as much as you can because your brain will start giving up information. Put your hands on your heart, do a couple breaths, drop it with your awareness down into your heart space, inside your heart space, not on the outside, and then sit there and let it process. When you get super good at becoming aware that something, like you'll notice the change, it doesn't take a lot of time. Try not to associate this to a length of time thing, which is what we're used to doing with everything, but try not to. Once it's altered here, immediately drop it into your gut. Once you get fight and flight or peace in your gut, and it should happen pretty quick, take it and put it out into the universe. Recognizing that the universe is inside of you, not outside of you, right? It's that depth inside your heart where there's no borders or boundaries. You're just putting it into the field of information. And then just hold that feeling. If you end up in fight and flight from your gut and you put it in the universe is going to transmute it too. It's going to give you different information. It's what it does. It's part of the system. If you end up in peace and you put it up into the universe, you put it inside that space of your heart, you will get new information. Sometimes it's about how to handle things or what to do next, what you can do. I don't know. It will always end up in a positive aspect, giving you some kind of benefit and relief, because that's what the heart does. The heart will not send you into fear. The heart does not hate. The heart does not, right? It's not going to lead you into places that are going to cause issues. It will only take you into love, gratitude, peace, joy, right? All the beautiful things that are attributes in that system. By using the words themselves, simply by using the attributes of the heart, you are talking to your own spirit. And I want you to start to recognize that, because that's going to take us into next steps. All right, that'll be next week. The more you recognize that, the more you participate with it, the more you let that open up, you're going to notice your system responding differently. And your system locally, meaning your physical body in this world, but also the system around you. It will respond differently when you're engaged with your spirit, just like it responds differently when you're in positive high vibration versus negative low vibration. So now we're moving just from vibration itself into a place of engaging more with our spirit to allow that movement and momentum inside this life that we're creating. Take a breath. That was a lot of words. Was that helpful? Do you have questions? Please feel free to open up your recorder if you need to, if you want to talk. Questions, thoughts, ideas. What else can you use this for? You can use this for beliefs that don't serve you. Right? And it's interesting how those, oh, I sure will. It's interesting how those relate straight back to the emotions of the heart, the attributes of the heart. Your beliefs have something to do, it's opposing, right? If my belief itself is something like I hated myself for years, that was my major belief was I hate you, speaking to myself, totally didn't serve me. Relates right back to my misunderstanding of love because of how I was treated and taught as a kid. So it all relates, it's all interconnected. So the question was, answer how your work differs from Joe Dispenza. I don't know a ton about his work, but what I do know about it is he loves long drawn out and this is what I hear from a lot of folks that do his work, like really do his work, the long drawn out meditations with the loud music, and the information you get from that can be quite amazing. Actually, he has done some really great information as far as the scientific discovery behind, because he hooks people up to the brain scans and does all of this kind of stuff. And so it's just given us a wealth of information about how this really works. I don't do the long drawn out meditations. I don't like those. I don't even know. I don't know what I get. I don't care for that kind of stuff. I never have, because I couldn't sit down and do it. And I probably do actually do it at this point. I just don't do it like that. I go into my heart space and just like stay inside the space of my heart and talk to my own spirit, right? Talk to the spirit of God, however you view that. Some people would say it's a spirit guide, right? Whatever it is you're in there feeling and noticing, I engage in that. That's what I've done for quite a while. The other thing I've heard about his work, like the loud music, that he loves because the vibration of the music itself. I don't use any of that. I'll never use that in my meditations. Here's part of the problem. When you use that kind of stuff, you're entraining your system to need that kind of stuff. If I can find the hum of the universe, of creation, and I always called it listening to angels sing, right? I would hear the angels singing. And if I can find that hum without something outside of me, so now I'm back inside of me, catching the vibration that I need to catch. I find the music on the outside, especially if it's really loud and booming, I find it very, very distracting. In fact, sometimes I enjoy the music so much I forget I'm meditating, and I just like go hang out in the music, but I'm not really following along with whatever's going on. So there's many different things going on there. How else do I differ? I think he has just recently started talking a lot about heart coherence. I don't know how he's using it. I know one of the biggest differences of what I'm doing compared to most modalities is the fact that we're looking for your spirit, like plain and simple. And if you don't get in touch with that part of you, you've missed the point of all of this. I am totally, I believe that is the point of all of this, is can you get away from the physicality and still participate in life, but be so in tuned into your spirit that is how you lead your life. And you still, like, we'll talk about manifestation here in a couple of weeks. That actually gets bigger, that gets better. Yeah, so Kendra was just saying she's been practicing heart space without her hands. It's tougher. It is, because this is tactical information to the system. It's how the body works. When I was a personal trainer, that was a huge part of training, was touch somebody where you wanted their attention to go. If you're trying to activate a muscle, it's no different, but you can definitely do it without. You just train the system to do it. Did that answer your question about Joe Dispenza? I mean, there's other stuff too, but, and I know there's some folks, I actually have clients, who do and have done a lot of Joe Dispenza stuff, quite a few of them actually. And the question in my head was, what is he missing? What missed the mark? For some of the people, their system was too revved up in fight and flight, and he dives right into these really huge, deep meditations, and they just couldn't follow him there. They couldn't get there. For other people, I mean, it's different reasons, but that was probably the biggest one I noticed, was the system was so revved up, we didn't sufficiently calm it down first. And that would be the thing I would say for pretty much anybody, is if you can calm their system down first. There's a few people in here that are practitioners, so this would be words to you, and people who are looking at doing this kind of work, this would be words to you. If you can calm a person's system down first, it will get you 110 times further faster than any meditation or anything else, because you're not fighting through the rubble of the subconscious mind. You're not fighting through the rubble of fight and flight. right, in a revved up system. And if you have somebody just sit there and breathe for like 2 weeks, and you can get them to understand, if you do this every hour and they do the work, it will calm their system down so fast. I mean, I can't even explain how fast. It does have to be the first step. It always does. And there's a lot of programs, protocols, including Dr. Joe, and I have nothing but respect for this man. He's doing some fantastic work, but he doesn't do that first. And for a lot of people, that's where it misses the mark. But they're still in there trying. They're still in there, right, chugging along and doing the thing. So hopefully it'll get there for them. All right. Questions, thoughts, concerns. I think this went a little bit long today. I apologize for that. Was it helpful? What else do you need? Give me information. You can always email me also. That is totally fine. Anybody? If you want to open your microphone and just speak, feel free to do that. So I want to go backwards for just half a second. We're going to run this through the system one more time just to practice it. And we are going to use an age-old issue. If I can find what she typed here. Let me go all the way back to the beginning. It's way up front. Somebody had typed their mother had just done something and it became an issue. So everybody has a mother, I'm assuming. There it is. All right, so this was about a haircut. Everybody has a mother who does something. My mother did all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's hard to say, okay, I'm 100% responsible when it was her actions. And then you have to kind of trail through the system. What we end up doing is asking why. Why will never get you anywhere. It's the first question or the first word I would totally throw out of my system. I would get rid of the word why. I never ask why. Before asking why, I will ask what, right? Instead of why did this happen, I will ask what else can I do? What do I do next? I'll ask who can I get hold of to help? Right? It's usually probably the only question with who, but I will never ask why something happened because it will lead you down a bunny trail. You are attached in there somehow, I promise you. Wherever that was, your involvement is in there somewhere. The question isn't why though, it's what. What do I do next? In using this system, in using what we're doing here, here's what I would do. I would think of the way that made me feel. So Jessica, I'm talking to you specifically. But everybody else, think about your mother. Think about something that happened. And if it's not your mother, maybe your father, maybe a sibling, whoever the person is, think about something somebody, quote unquote, did to you. Don't ask why. We're going to say what. And we're going to say, okay, we're going to use a ladder of awareness and see if we can shift this a little bit. What does it feel like? I'm in my brain. I'm thinking and feeling. Probably a little angry, probably a lot sad, probably upset. You're just noticing emotions, right? Think about the way it looks. Think about what your mom looked like when it was going on. I get all kinds of nutty stuff. I actually had this happen when I was a kid. I had super long hair and she whacked it all off, so I looked just like my brothers. Notice it, feel it. Go for 1 minute. And I want everybody else who's doing this, if you're in your heart space already, notice if you can feel Jessica's emotion to this. Feel the sadness, feel the anger, feel the pain and frustration. Notice it's not yours necessarily unless you have something like this too that's gone on. You're just noticing. Now deliberately with your awareness, move it from your brain down into your heart. Inside your heart space, if you need to use that idea of a funnel, you're dropping it right inside the center of your heart. Do your functional breaths. I would do functional breath number 1 because the system is revved up with this. Just notice as the heart transduces the information. become a little bit more aware of it. Now, some people have told me before, what is the feeling of heartburn that you get? It either means you've missed the mark, right? I dropped it outside of my heart somehow, or my heart is really struggling transducing this. It's deep. Just sit there with it. Let your heart do its job. And the reason I said that is because I am feeling heartburn. I'm getting some kind of weird heartache with this. And I don't know if I'm feeling Jessica's heartache or my own. So just be there with it. Keep noticing it. When you're ready, when you feel it move, transform into an attribute of the heart, move it to your gut. Once you've got peace or fight and flight, whichever way it goes, move it out into the universe. Let it transduce even further. Just notice for new information. Once you've got new information, bring it back into your brain. So we use that, keep processing if you're processing. We use that, Natalie just asked what other things would you say to work on with the ladder other than fear? That was an issue, which is why we did that. That's how you would use an issue. The issue itself is attached to other emotions. And so you're clearing out the emotion while you're giving yourself new information on the issue. Beliefs, same thing, no different. They're attached to emotions. New information just now for me in that one, and like I said, I had this happen when I was a kid. I was kind of shocked there was still a sting to that, actually. The new information I got was, oh, your hair will grow back. And I don't know if I necessarily, when I was a kid, would have liked that information, but it's true. And it makes you just kind of go, oh, okay. Right? Take your mom, right? If you're in a struggle, take a person, run the person through your ladder as an awareness of whatever that person's issue is, whatever issue you're having with that person. Run it through and just see what new information you get. It can come in the form of words, ideas, pictures. This is your homework. Use the ladder. Add your breath to it, right? If you start feeling like you're getting balled up and tense, you need air. You need to open the system back out. All right? You will end up back in a state of a heart-centered emotion at the end of this ladder. If you're not, take whatever negative emotion you have and run it back through again at the point that you're at. Okay? So you can release old emotions, strong emotions, issues, beliefs. Get creative. Get super creative with this. There is no borders or boundaries to this. I've used it for all kinds of things. I literally will go driving across the country and I'll feel an emotion and I'll just drop it into my heart and process it. I have felt the emotion of eagles soaring above my car. And I start seeing, like when I bring it back into my brain, I see the visions and the whatever it is they're watching while they're flying around. Get creative. Get creative. Is the app ready yet? We ran into a little glitch, but it's very close. I can actually see it on the Google Play Store now, which is cool. Can you do this while you're driving? I can't say yes to that because that would be dumb and it's a liability. So don't, but I do, yes. But be very careful. And the reason why you can is because you're not in a meditative state necessarily. You're in a state of consciousness. It's a very heightened consciousness. Okay. What was I saying? Let me finish with the app. So I can see it. I can see it in the Google Play Store. It's not, Apple hasn't approved it yet, so I'm still waiting on their approval. But it'll be in the Apple Store also. And then once I have links to both of them, I'll set it all to 0 so everybody here, you can download it and get in it, create a password for free, and then go in and start testing it and playing with it. And if you start all over at week 1, it's all the stuff we were doing at week 1. It'll be a little bit different. It's going to be drawn out beyond the 6 weeks. There's going to be other information in there too, and I'll just keep adding to it as I go along. But we're getting closer. Thank you for asking that, because I meant to address that earlier. All right, last one. Jessica, every time I'm doing good, my mom or dad do something. It's always been that way when she hasn't wanted to. Keep taking it to your heart. Ongoing situations, this is a good one to address. Ongoing situations are always a little bit different, right? It requires more consistent effort and work on your part. And the effort would be literally just processing it and letting it come back to peace. The more you can be in a peaceful state, the more you can stay in that place of your heart and let yourself keep regenerating. You're going to keep changing and growing no matter what people outside of you do. Does it make sense? I want to tell you it's easy when it gets easy, but when it's not easy yet. When your heart starts doing this all the time, when you get into this pattern and this groove, and you'll watch people spinning around you doing all kinds of nutty stuff, and you stay at peace, you know you've arrived to a different level. But it's not easy until it gets easy. And it's the perception. Take it's hard and run that through the system, right? I would do my mom, I would do my dad, I would do the something, any of it, right? There's a trust issue going on here. Trust, run trust through. It just gets interesting. And the more times you do it, you're literally practicing, you're giving your system more strength and benefit. So just keep doing it. All right, because it is easy once it gets to the state of easy. All right. Questions, thoughts, concerns, please send them to my email, Christy@mindrewire.com, and I can grab those there. Let me make sure there was nothing here. All right, I think we got it. And if you need anything else, please don't hesitate. Drop stuff in the Facebook group. Please utilize that, because if one of you is struggling with something and we can get on and decipher it and move it for you, I guarantee you other people are struggling with it too. It's just how group work works. I keep trying to read Victor's little sign on his thing. I'm not what has happened to me. I'm what I chose to become. Who is that? Carl Jung. Oh, Carl Jung. That's cool. I like that. Right in the center of my screen, that's been sitting the whole time. I'm not what happened to me. I'm what I chose to become. Word on the day, right there. All right. If there's nothing else, we're going to jump. This is already recording in the Facebook group, so you can go watch it there also. I'm going to stop the recorder. Everybody go ahead and